Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we rank the Bowser fights, not counting the time Bowser from Shanana fought the Nintendo of America president Doug Bowser. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellerson. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going good. I have to admit that I've been having a couple of sleepless nights since Tuesday's episode when we talked about new Sonic games coming out next year.
Interesting. Why have those inspired sleepless nights for you?
Well, I am concerned about the future of the Sonic Forces borrowing program, and I think I know what we're going to do when new Sonic games come out, but I feel like I need reassurance from you that, like, the plan is going to be the plan.
Okay, so I think the plan is the Sonic Forces borrowing program continues unabated and unaltered.
Yeah, okay, phew. All right, I already feel better because that's also what I thought
think was
should
going to happen.
I don't know. Maybe we were gonna like buy another Sonic game and like retire the Sonic Forces borrowing program.
Wow. I mean, look, we can always launch a separate second Sonic something borrowing program. Like, that's okay. And that program can be just as good. You know, let's just insert this here. If you would like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch, all you gotta do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And I mail it to you. You play it for as long as you want, or you don't play it, or whatever. Maybe someday there will be another Sonic game on that list. For now, it is just Sonic Forces. That would be a weird thing for us, like, to be known for, as like a podcast that just lends out my copy of Sonic games when it's a
Of
Nintendo,
the most recent
it's a
Sonic
Nintendo
game?
podcast. Yeah. Why aren't we letting out Mario games? Mark, we've screwed up all the branding on this. The program is still perfect, but we messed up. If you'd like to tell us how badly we messed up, we would like your reviews on Apple Podcasts. Actually, if you think we're messing up, please don't review us. But everyone else, please review us on Apple Podcasts. That helps us. It helps us get seen. Mark, I was looking through a list of just like aggregated Nintendo podcasts, and we were like 37th or something on this list. I'd like to be 34th, 33rd. Like, let's get some reviews in there. Let's get up there. Recommend us to your friends. I think we're a better podcast than our imprint on the internet would suggest. Would you agree?
I do agree. Let's shoot for the moon. 34th.
34th. Speaking of 35th, Mario's 35th anniversary is this year. We are dedicating an entire month to episodes about Mario and the Super Mario Brothers franchise. And we are capping it off with an episode all about our favorite Mario memories. And we need your Mario memories to add to the episode, so it's a rich tapestry of not just Mark and mine's memories. So please write those up. We got a question recently from Connor in an email asking like how long of a memory we're looking for. I don't know, like a paragraph, a couple sentences. If you have like a long story that is really meaningful to you, like, just go for it, man. I'll edit as we go. So, if it's too long, I'll fix it. Get those to us by October 27th, and we will read them on the show and talk about them. That's just Nintendo Cartridge Society at
gmail.com. And I know October 27th seems like a long ways away, but we're already fairly close to the middle of September.
Yeah, no, it's insanity. Time is just, we're like blowing through it. All of it, every single month, every single week, every single day. They're all just being demolished under the weight that is 2020, and you don't want it to squeeze out your Mario memories. You got to get them on the show. Mark, would you like to get into our topic this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
This week, we are ranking all of the Bowser final boss fights from the console Super Mario Brothers games. Now, Is this a lot of qualifiers? You bet. Is it a necessary number of qualifiers? Also, you bet. So just console games, just Bowser final boss fights. Because there are times in these games where you fight Bowser more than once. Mario
Yes.
64 is a great example.
But we are not counting those. Don't care.
No.
Couldn't care less. Another list that I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah, top Mario 64 boss fights. We'll get there. But I think I wanted to start off this conversation by just talking about what we value in boss fights, right? Because I think that, and we will go through all of the boss fights that are in question for this ranking. But I think just laying a good groundwork of like, what do you like in a boss fight? What do you not like in a boss fight? What frustrates you? What excites you in general?
Yeah, one of the things that is interesting to me about the Bowser boss fights in a lot of the games, especially like the 3D Mario, is that they're always usually just like a separate mechanic from what you've been doing the rest of the time. And it my enjoyment of those fights is so dependent on how much I enjoy this like new mechanic.
Yeah, I mean that is a big sticking point for me on a lot of boss fights. And I it is a thing that I hate about most video games that at the very end they will say, no, now you have to do something completely different to what you've been doing the whole time and what you've been enjoying the whole time. So I think my favorite Bowser boss fights are going to be the ones that are largely still you just playing the game, still probably platforming or exploring or whatever, still using the same skills that you'd been developing the whole time.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, so that might be a preview of what our final answer is going to be. But
Interesting.
but yeah, I mean, for me, that like really that is basically like the most important part is like
Yeah.
how fun is the new mechanic that you're introducing, because so many of them, like, not to get super far into it, but like, Odyssey is a good example where it's like, I don't like the Bowser boss fights in Super Mario Odyssey. I don't find them particularly fun. I don't think that they're like bad. Like, I didn't like dislike them, but it wasn't something that I looked forward to.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I'm sorry if you said this, but generally true of all of the boss fights
Yeah.
in Mario Odyssey. That like that game is so much about exploration that when I'm locked into a tiny little like octagon with one of the brutals or something, that I'm just like, no, why am I doing this? I'd rather be running around in the dark, trying not to be eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yes.
That feels more on brand. So do you have an example of a boss fight in a non-Mario video game that you like hold up there as like, this is a boss fight that like I love and feels like uh right in line with like everything else that the game has done? I have an example if you're still, if you need time to think about it.
Yeah, I would love to hear your example. I mean, because I can't think of one specifically. I feel like JRPGs are a great example of like where where it is usually true that the skills that you've acquired like up to that point actually matter in the strategy that you're like using on the boss.
Yeah, Final Fantasies 6 and 7 are both great examples of this because they both like kind of blow it out, where you're using multiple parties to fight one boss, which is something the game had not allowed up to that point. But like it's the same mechanics and the same characters just sort of doubled, which I mean to my mind that's like the perfect way to do a boss fight where it's like everything you've been doing but more.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess does a pretty good job. It brings back that goat herding mechanic from the very beginning of the game, which when you initially play it is obnoxious. But as you recall it while fighting the Ganondorf at the very end, it feels like a full circle kind of thing. I also really liked the final boss fight, even though it was really hard in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, because that is a very the combat in that game is meticulous and like measured, and you have to parry and dodge at all the right times. And the last boss is just very good, but just very good at fighting that way. So it all feels it all feels cohesive.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Zelda because like both flavors of Zelda are satisfying to me in their own way. Breath of the Wild is a great example where it's like, hey, you have these like 5 core mechanics, and then take out the boss like using that information. And then,
Yeah.
like more classic Zelda where it's like, hey, we gave you this new tool, and in order to defeat the boss, you need to like use that tool proficiently. Like both of those feel like satisfying to me because they're using like all the mechanics that you have to, like just the basic mechanics of the game, and then
Yeah.
usually with like one additional twist.
Oh man, that just got me thinking about all of the Twilight Princess bosses. There's the one that you got to fight with like the gear thing that's like going
I
around
love
in
that
like
gear
the circle.
thing.
It's so cool. The gear thing proves to be mostly worthless once you get out of that dungeon, but man, is it cool in there. Okay, we've established what we like and what we don't like about boss fights. Mark, do you just quickly, do you have any like standouts for bad boss fights?
Ooh, this one is like a lot of people have complaints about, but like the end of the first BioShock game where
What's that boss fight like?
So BioShock is, like uh it gives you the illusion that it's like all about choice, and it's much more interested in like atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. And then at the very end, you're just locked in a room with this guy who's like roided out, and it just becomes like another, typical game where you're trying to defeat this like giant beast, which is something that you
Yeah.
never really had to like worry about in BioShock before.
Yeah, a little bit like the end of Arkham Asylum, where you're just like fighting out
Oh yeah.
baned out Joker, and you're like, this is stupid. This whole game was great, and like you fought all these other bosses that felt unique and true to their like Batman characters, and then it's like, what? So why am I being thrown around by the Joker? That doesn't make any sense.
And basically any like Bethesda RPG where again like the world is so open, it's all about choices, but then in the last little bit you're being like funneled, through these hallways to get to this point where I don't know what a satisfying like end of the story could be. It's a tough spot for those types of games because
Totally.
people's like experiences can be so divergent.
I will also say that most Metal Gear Solid end bosses are bad. And partially that's because by then the story has blown up to a degree that nothing makes any sense. But also usually it comes down to a fist fight on the top of a busted up vehicle, or in the case of Metal Gear Solid 3 in a field. And you're just using abilities that you didn't use throughout the whole game. Like you're never fist fighting in those games, except for the very end. Okay, so we have got Mark. How many are on our list here to consider?
I did not count one. Give us a second while we count this list silently to ourselves.
2, 3, 4, 5. I look. I think it's like a dozen.
Well, while we list them, one of us lists them, the other one count. How about we do that?
Got it. So Mark, why don't you list them off?
All right, great. So, Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels, or the Japanese Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario World, Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Brothers Wii. No, sorry, New Super Mario Brothers Wii, Super Mario Galaxy 2, New Super Mario Brothers U, Super Mario 3D World, and Super Mario Odyssey.
Which comes to an even dozen. So how do you want to approach this? Do you want to just sort of like run down and like talk about like each one of them and sort of decide like tiers to like easily sort them into, of like obviously good, debatably good, and obviously bad?
Sure, yeah, we could do it that way.
I mean, I feel like that's for me. There are a couple of these that are just obviously bad boss fights. And we'll start off with Super Mario Brothers. I'm gonna say obviously bad.
I do think it's obviously bad. Yeah, I do. It's hard to like. There's not really much to talk about or like much to defend. It's basically just another Bowser fight.
Yeah,
and it's not even really a
throwing
fight.
hammers.
Yeah,
no, it's you just got to run under him and like hit a little thing. And I mean, it's also dulled by the fact that by that point you've done it 7 times. And like, yeah, he's only been throwing hammers lately, but even that he's done a couple times by the time you reach him at the end of Super Mario Brothers. So yeah, for me, that's got to be like a real. If we're using letters, I'm going to say like a real C tier. If we're doing A, B, and C.
Okay, yeah. And so the next one is that I also think would be a C tier is New Super Mario Brothers. Man, not New Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels, which is
Yeah.
almost essentially like basically the same exact thing as Super Mario Brothers, except with the added difficulty
Yeah, they're like
of
two little walls.
exactly, and one of them has one of the like the fire what would you call those? Like the fireballs that spin in a circle?
Yeah, that's it. Like a fire bar. I think
Fire
is probably what
bar,
that's.
fire
Fire bar,
stick.
fire
Yeah.
bar. I'm trying to imagine the Super Mario Maker voice singing it as they place it on the map. Fire bar. Yeah, it's exactly the same. And then by this point, this is what the 16th unique time you've encountered Bowser. Like, holy cow!
So I almost feel like it's like worse than it's
Mm.
more disappointing than Super Mario Brothers because at least with Super
Yeah,
Mario
I'll agree with
Brothers
that.
it was the first.
Yeah. Or the eighth, as it were. But we're not counting the ones that aren't the final boss fight. We're not counting the ones that aren't the final boss fight. Which brings us to Super Mario Brothers 3. Now, this is the first game that introduces the idea. Well, actually, I guess it's the only one where Bowser is sort of destroying the ground beneath you, and you basically you can't physically attack him. It doesn't, you have no effect on him. He's just pounding the ground. He's blowing fire at you. And when he pounds the ground, he destroys a part of this bridge. And your only chance of defeating him is making him pound all the way through the bridge and plummeting to his death. How do you feel about this one, Mark?
This is I like this one. This was probably an A tier for me. One of the things I like about it is that the mechanic is fairly simple, but I like the fact that like it gets more challenging, and not because what Bowser is doing really like changes, but because like the closer he gets to plummeting to his death, the further into a hole you are, and so you have to
Yeah.
time your jumps differently. And I think that's like an interesting mechanic versus him like speeding up or getting 3 times as big or anything like that. It's very unique.
Yeah, it is unique, but it also feels like weirdly similar to the Koopa Kid fights that you do throughout the game. Like it's all contained in that like single screen. And well, you have to go on the offensive for the Koopa Kids. Bowser's sort of on the offensive with you. Like I don't know, it feels like a pleasing inversion of what you've been doing in all the previous boss fights.
Yeah, I agree. Like for that reason, it feels to me like we were talking about, where it's like, oh, this is a mechanic that I am used to, and it's helped by being like a 2D game because you're just continuing to do like all the actions that you took previously in the game. So even though like the actual boss fight is different from one that you've encountered, like you're still taking the same actions that you have always taken.
Yeah, I also like about it that it is a no there are no like extra elements. You don't need a power up. You don't need like it's very simple. It is Mario versus Bowser. So yeah, I'll agree with you. That one goes in the A tier for me. Next is Super Mario World. This is where Bowser comes out in that flying clown car, and you have to he drops the wind up Mecha Koopas on you, and you have to stomp on them and throw them up and like knock them out. He will occasionally drop fire from the sky, and he kind of like hops around and smashes you that way. And then also there's that huge cannonball thing that he can drop on you.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I think this one's really visually impressive. I know it like blew my mind when little Mark first saw it. Like the animation on Princess Peach when she's asking for help, and then also just how like enormous Bowser is. It felt very grand.
Yeah, it feels grand. There is something about it that feels a little overblown to me.
Mm.
Um, just the fact that you have to grab these Mecha Koopas, which you just met in the castle, like they don't appear earlier in the game, and toss them up. It that's not that's outside of like the vocabulary of the rest of the boss battles in the game. And also like, I'm gonna bring this up again later too, but man, that clown card just makes me think of Bowser Jr. And I do not care for Bowser Jr. For me, this is a high B, maybe a low A, but I'm gonna say high B.
I don't like don't get me wrong, I don't like the mechanics of this. Like, I don't
Oh, okay.
enjoy
All right.
this boss battle. But I do think that this is an interesting one to point out, where previously we were saying like we like the when boss battles feel like a piece of the rest of the game. But I do
Yeah.
think there's something to be said where like, oh, it's the boss battle, like it is doing something different because it is a bigger deal. And I think that it works better in like Mario World, where than it does in like Super Mario Odyssey, because Super Mario Odyssey, you repeat that same boss battle, like those same mechanics multiple times basically. And so when you get to that final boss, it doesn't feel like anything special. It just feels like a repeat of what you've done before. Whereas like here, it's like it doesn't feel too divorced from everything that's come before,
Sure.
but it's also like brand new, so it makes the boss battle feel special.
Okay, yeah. So, but I do we agree that it's probably B tier?
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, Super Mario 64, a game that we will all be playing in like a week. So this is, I think, the fourth time you fight Bowser in this game, and the mechanics are largely the same. The only thing that really changes is that the map. Well, I think you have to throw them into mines a couple more times. It's like 5 instead of 3, and the pieces of the map gradually fall away. So it becomes harder to, run around him as he breathes fire at you, and as he makes those like rings come out from. Is that what happens? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I actually did not review this Bowser fight for this episode, like I did most of them, because this one feels so under my fingers. But now I can't remember exactly how it goes.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. I think Bowser like pounces or like pounds on the ground, and it brings out those like wavy rings, like when
Yeah.
the Death Star is destroyed in the special edition. And
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
and
Death Star 1. Death Star 1.
yeah, the Mario has to like jump over.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if we explicitly said, but basically the goal of this is like Mario's running around avoiding Bowser's attacks, and you have to grab Bowser by the tail, swing him around, and then throw him into mines that are like on the outside of the field. And then you have to successfully do that like 5 times. I fully admit that this is a limitation of like the system, and for the time it was pretty amazing, but I do not like this boss battle. I don't think it's any good. This is a definite C tier for me.
I'm gonna come down on that same side. Even though I said that this is a boss battle that is like in my fingers, like I can feel it, I can hear the music and all the voice cues and all the sound effects when I close my eyes. But like, yeah, the fact that you had to spend so much time like fighting the camera on this, and like you can grab Bowser's tail and be spinning him around and have destroyed like 3 of the mines already, and just be like spinning him while also like rotating the camera trying to like line up a good shot with a mine, and then you're like, that's where the camera thinks I want to be looking, it's wrong, and here I go, and you throw him, and it's just like whatever happens. Yeah, it's too chaotic. You don't get to spin anything else around over the course of the game. It feels like a mechanic that, well established in the previous Bowser fights, is still just like isolated and kind of out of nowhere. And I also think he doesn't look that good in Mario 64.
No, he looks really much, I would say, like, I hesitate to say it, but like realistic, like much more like a dinosaur, and less like the kind of like cartoon Bowser that we've come to know. I mean, Mario also looks, unique in this game.
Yeah.
So seeing it again, like watching the video of it to remind myself of how the fight goes down, like it's fun to see how weird Bowser looks, but it's not like, it's for sure not his best look.
Yeah, and a little bit out of place, right? Like I feel like they do such a good job of translating a lot of the Mario models into 3D. Like I think the Koopas look good, the Goombas look great, Boos look really good, Thwomps of course are incredible. And just like Bowser, I don't know, he just seems like over rendered, or
He
something.
seems way more reminiscent of like Super Mario Brothers Bowser than he
Mm,
does to me of like Super Mario World. Um I it's funny that you bring up the camera because watching the video it reminded me just how I'm so used to dual analog camera, right? Where you're just like
yes.
free range camera where you can swing it around wherever you want. And that is so not the case with a Nintendo 64, where like you're using those C buttons to like change to like four, like predetermined camera angles.
Yep. Yep. And hey, that'll be a fun thing that we all wrestle with in 1 week. All right, next up is Super Mario Sunshine. Now, this is a boss battle that I have only ever seen. I have never played this boss battle. Mark, did you beat Super Mario Sunshine when
I
you
did, yeah. Hmm.
whenever?
Yeah, I did beat Super Mario Sunshine. Um, so it's an interesting boss battle,
Mhm.
especially like the lead up to it. It's like Bowser Jr. and Bowser are hanging out in this like
Strikes against it,
celestial
strikes against it.
celestial hot tub. Bowser Jr. is talking. But the actual like mechanic of it is the hot tub thing that they're sitting in is like a shine, and it has 5 points to it. And so Mario, while Bowser Jr. is shooting like bullet bills at you, and Bowser is like shooting fire at you, you have to run around the perimeter of this like giant hot tub, and then go out to each point of the shine and like butt stomp it, and then it breaks up a little bit, so there's a little bit of platforming to get back to the center, and you have to do that 5 times to like throw it off balance and knock the whole thing over.
So in the video that I watched of it, it's not just a regular old butt stomp. You need to do like the boost with the flood and then butt
Oh yeah,
stomp
yeah,
down from
yeah.
that.
You're totally right. You're totally right.
And also on top of that, use flood a fair amount to actually clear Bowser's fire as he's shooting it at you. So again, having never actually played this one, it does feel like it is asking you to engage in the mechanics and the specific mechanics of Mario Sunshine. Am I right in that assertion?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I haven't played this game for like 15 years, but my memory
But
is
you
that
will in about a week.
but I will in about a week. But my memory is that like the boss fight itself, like I like or at least feel neutral on. Like it's probably a B territory for me.
Mhm.
Getting to the boss fight is like really annoying and challenging. You're basically trying to like pilot this boat through a river of lava.
Oh,
Um
come on.
but the fight itself I think is pretty good, and it super weirded me out to have to watch this again and be like, wow, Bowser Jr. like really did talk a lot.
Well, again, we'll all be experiencing that in a week. We'll put that in the B tier for now. Super Mario Galaxy is next. Um, so this is one that in my memory had been completely replaced by the Super Mario Galaxy 2 Bowser boss fight. I had forgotten this one entirely.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It was totally the reverse for me, where like I could not for the life of me remember what the Galaxy 2 boss fight was.
So the Super Mario Galaxy Bowser boss fight is basically you and Bowser, Mario and Bowser, on a small planet. And he is coming at you, and you just got to like bat him away with either your spin or like those kind of like stretchy like plant things that are on some planets. And then he will start to like roll around the planet. And you just got to like keep batting him around like that. There are 3 different phases of that, and they're all like a little different. But it's all the same basic. You're on a small planet with Bowser, just sort of batting him around. Um, and I don't know if it is just in comparison to Super Mario Galaxy 2, but watching this boss fight again, I was like, that's boring and underwhelming.
I don't really disagree. The thing that I love about this boss battle though is how well it incorporates like the cool mechanics of Galaxy. Like you're on
Yeah.
these kind of like small planets, and so you're like might be at the bottom, Bowser might be at the top, and like the perspective is constantly changing and how smoothly like Galaxy handles that. And then when you have to use like the gravity to get from one planet to the next, like
Yeah.
all of
That's
that
true.
is
That is
really
fun.
cool. But I agree with you that like the battle itself is fairly boring.
Yeah. So I kind of want to put this in like the B category because it plays by Galaxy's rules, and like highlights something that is interesting about Galaxy. Um, but like the actual Bowserness of it, like it doesn't. You fight so many other bosses that are just like that, but aren't Bowser. In like the same sort of atmosphere. So B.
Yeah, I think so.
Next is New Super Mario Brothers Wii.
I have to admit, I did not remember this one until I watched the video.
Me too. But as soon as it happened, I was like, yes, and I got super excited about it. So all of the new Super Mario Brothers games, the Bowser fight is a fake out at first. So it starts by just presenting you with kind of, it's the Bowser that you see in Super Mario Maker for the most part, where like he's breathing fire and like hopping around, and it is not hard to get to the other side of him and hit the POW switch and launch him into the fire. And in New Super Mario Brothers Wii, the princess, which is in a cage right above the switch that you've just hit, throws off her wig and is revealed to be Kamek, that Magic Koopa, who then does his, Yoshi's Island style magic and makes Bowser huge. Obviously Bowser is big in a lot of all these like previous boss fights. This is the first time that Bowser gets absolutely enormous. Screens tall. So big we don't even get to see his whole body, right? And he basically just comes after you. Well, you have to platform through the rest of this level, and he spits fireballs at you, which destroy the ground that you're on and destroy the walls that you have to pass by. So I think this is a super clever Bowser boss fight because you have to beat him by platforming your way to the end.
Yeah, I really like it too. I kind of like the whole setup. Like I like that it looks like, basically a fancier version of the original Super Mario Brothers ending. I like that it turns into that it's not like some crazy mechanic that we haven't done before in the game, that it just becomes like a challenging platform level. I would put it at like a high B, only for me because I didn't remember it. It wasn't like memorable until I saw it.
I'll argue to put it at an A, perhaps a low A. And also maybe coming up here, I'm going to be introducing some S tier Bowser boss fights. I really, really appreciate the restraint of this one being like, no, the fight is platforming. You just platform your way through it. You never do anything offensive to Bowser.
Mm-hmm.
You're not even trying to trick him. All you're trying to do is get away. And it's platforming and it's huge and wide open. So like, works perfectly for multiplayer. I want to give this one the A ranking. Next, Super Mario Galaxy 2. This one rules. I like this one a lot. And involves Bowser like floating in space, and you are like kind of stationed on a small planet. And he like throws like meteorites at you and like punches the ground and sends out those shock waves. And there are multiple phases of this where like he punches the ground and it makes the little meteorites turn into like separate moons of this little planet. You have to jump to those little moons and then like butt pound them in Bowser's direction. That's a cool sequence. And then you think you beat him and he like grabs the star at the last minute and turns into an even bigger Bowser. Clearly the biggest Bowser we've ever seen. And during this sequence, you have no sturdy ground to stand on. The planetary object is Bowser. And so there are these comets flying at you, and you just have to jump on them and pound them over to him. And it feels like you are tumbling through a black hole and just like through the void of space as you do battle with Bowser. This one feels impossibly cool to me. I love this boss fight.
Yeah, I think it's really cool too, and I think it's one of the best like Bowser's dead. No, he isn't fake outs in the series.
So we want to give this one an A, or does this get a coveted S tier?
It's an A for me. It's not an S for me.
All right, it's an A for me, bro. Okay. Next up is New Super Mario Brothers U. Now, this one same setup as New Super Mario Brothers Wii, right? Where you just run under Bowser, you hit the P switch, he falls away. There is no Kamek this time who brings him back. Instead, you just run off the screen and you're like on the top of Bowser's castle. and he just comes back but is big. So whatever light narrative nonsense they were doing in the previous game, they are not bothering with here. And then you fight Giant Bowser and Bowser Jr. at the same time.
Right,
Mark, yeah.
because Bowser Jr.'s in his like flying clown car. You have to knock him out of it, then use that to fly up, and then like pound on Bowser with it. I don't like this boss fight. This is a C tier boss fight for me. I don't like the mechanic at the end. I don't think it's particularly fun. I think it goes on for too long. It involves Bowser Jr., which is always challenging.
Strikes against. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think the only time I've beaten this boss fight is with you, Mark. Like we did it in multiplayer. And the thing that I said about New Super Mario Brothers Wii Bowser fight, where you're both just sort of platforming and sort of have like equal stake in getting to the end. This one not the case, because only one of you can get in that clown car.
Yeah.
So it feels like a real, like it lets down the multiplayer design. And I know the game isn't just multiplayer, it's also single player, but like, man, that's a real loss for as far as I'm concerned. C tier for that one. Next up, Super Mario 3D World. Mark, would you like to describe this one?
This one is, I think, the perfect version of what we liked about New Super Mario Brothers Wii, where it is just more platforming. And that is how you beat the game, is you are good at the platforming. But this one has the added bonus of having a lot of cat Bowsers in it.
Yeah, so this one, I think it succeeds on the same level of spectacle as Super Mario Galaxy 2, because it starts, you're like running up, to this tower. You can't see the top of it, and Bowser like jumps up on the edge of the bridge and pulls out a kitty bell. And for the first time, you're going to have to fight Bowser, turned into a cat, which, is starts out kind of tame. You're climbing this tower, and he's like busting out of things and like chasing you and like tearing stuff down. So it's all like pretty manageable for the first half of it. And then in the second half, as you are like propelling yourself up a pipe to get to the next area, you hear the sound of the cherry power up. And like a flash of red light, and then you start seeing cat Bowsers jump into frame and just like climbing up the side of the building. It'd be scary if it weren't adorable. And just the entire like approach to the top of this tower is just cat Bowsers busting through walls and like tearing things down and climbing up after you. And when you get to the top of this tower, there's a cat Bowser sitting on top of a giant POW block and 4 other cat Bowsers climbing up the sides of this thing, and you're standing in the middle furiously pounding this POW block while they shoot fire at you. And it's so exciting and so fun. This is the perfect Bowser boss fight. There is none better as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for me to disagree. It has everything I love about Mario. Has great platforming, has like super adorable Bowser, cat Bowser. It's hard to impeach it.
It's also both the cherry as it's used here and the cat suit are unique power-ups to this game, right? Like they are what set Super Mario 3D World apart from every other entry in the game. And when we ranked all the Mario power-ups like a year or two ago, we ranked that cat belt number 1, which maybe is insane, but I think it just is that cool. It's that meaningful. And seeing the bad guy get to use it, come on man.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because a power-up that features heavily in Super Mario Odyssey is of course Cappy and that like capture mechanic, and that is a part of the boss battle that you do with Bowser in that game.
Sure. So let's talk about this. Is that part of the boss fight or isn't it? So Super Mario 3D World, we've put that in the S tier. We are on to our final Super Mario Odyssey. There are 2 parts, I think, to your encounter with Bowser, right?
Yeah.
The first being he's wearing a tuxedo. The tuxedo has a top hat. The top hat has boxing gloves. And you have to capture the hat and then like box Bowser, all while avoiding normal Bowser isms. And that part, I find excruciating. I find it boring. I find it both too hard and too long.
Yeah, I don't like that part at I don't like that part at all. So that by itself is C tier for me, hands down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But do we want to count what happens afterwards?
So I think we have to. I mean, partially it breaks my heart to leave that boss, like, because when you say Bowser in Super Mario Odyssey, you think about when you throw the hat on him and control him and escape the level. Um, that's one of the, like, that is not quite on par with the Jump Up Superstar Donkey Kong Festival thing in Metro City, New Donk City, the Metro Kingdom. But it's up there. It feels fun and cool.
Yeah, it's a close second, and it definitely like clearly is recapturing that same like energy, because there's a different pop song that plays like during that capture mechanic as well. And you're Bowser, you have to escape this like imploding kingdom, and you're basically just like punching your way out. It is yeah, just like you said, it's, to me it's like second in that game of like great set pieces, great moments, but it is not the final boss battle. It is not the final.
It's tough. It's tough. Yeah,
it's not like the fight with Bowser is over, and this is a second thing that you're doing after you've already like defeated him.
Yeah. All right, that hurts me, but I think you're right. It's that escape. If we ever do a ranking the post-boss fight escape, then we can rank that one good and high.
Ooh, yeah.
It also feels good to control Bowser.
It does.
Miraculously, because you only get to do it for like 5 minutes. And I mean, I guess that whole game is full of experiences like that, right? Where they're like, control this enemy, you're only going to be able to do it in this kingdom, and you're maybe going to do it 4 times, and it usually feels good to do it. I don't know how they do it. That game's magical. But we're gonna put down the boss fight as a C.
I think so. I think like the boss fight C level, the anything that happens after the boss fight, like for sure S tier.
Okay, well that's amazing. Do we need to recap this, or what do you feel? What are you feeling like our next steps here?
So I think let's start at the bottom. I feel like, and let's if we gather all the C's together, then that'll give us an idea of the work that we have in front of us. So the C tiers that we have are Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels, Super Mario 64, New Super Mario Brothers U, and then Super Mario Odyssey.
Okay, so I think for me, the bottom of the list, the absolute bottom of the list, are Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels. I think those are the worst.
Yeah, Lost Levels for me is the bottom, just because it's like, at least Super Mario Brothers did it first.
Yeah. I mean, are there any of the other boss battles that you think are worse than those two?
No.
I mean, well, I will say in both of their favors, they are both quick.
Yeah, that's true. They're short. I mean, I don't like, it's kind of a toss up for me. As far as the three, like the not Super Mario Brothers games go, toss up for me between Odyssey and New Super Mario Brothers U.
So you're saying with the Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels at the bottom.
Yeah, like if we
comes next.
Sorry, because I guess what I'm saying is that I agree with you that to Super Mario Brothers and Lost Levels credit, they are short. So you don't have, it's not like dragged out, versus like if we wanted to make an argument that a game should be below that, I could totally see the argument to put New Super Mario Brothers U or Super Mario Odyssey below either of those, just because they take forever.
So I will back the play for putting New Super Mario Brothers U below, because it does take forever, and it's got too much Bowser Jr. in it, man. Get him out of here.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Look, if you want to do well on a ranking on this show, get Bowser Jr. out of there. And then we think Super Mario 64 above Super Mario Odyssey. Better than, I mean.
Yeah, I don't feel strongly either way. Like, um, I I could see the argument for either one.
I think of the C tier, Super Mario 64 um earns its place at the top of the C tier just by just by planting the seeds of itself in the
Mm,
earlier Bowser boss battles. That it feels like the end of, it's the last stanza in a line of poetry. You know you're going to do this Bowser boss fight again, and it delivers on that. It's just a bigger version of it. Is the camera impossible? Yes, but it was impossible the first 3 times you fought him too. So I think for me that's what puts it at the top of the C tier.
I like that as well. Because I think we have to give it a little bit of grace for being like the first time that they were doing it in 3D.
Totally, totally, totally. All right, so let's move on to the B tier, which consists of Super Mario World, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy.
So I think for me, I'm going back and forth for the bottom between Sunshine and World. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep, yep. Um, I I haven't played Sunshine, but my gut says that. Oh no, I honestly don't know. This is tough.
and
It feels like a 3-way tie to me.
I actually think I might be wrong. I think that Galaxy is the worst just because it like goes on for so long. Neither Sunshine or World are necessarily that long. And
Mm,
like cuz like Galaxy there's not much you can do to speed it up except not
yeah.
like miss Bowser, but it's going to have those like same phases no matter what. So I think it's actually the order we have it listed here possibly for me where it's Galaxy at the bottom, then Sunshine, and then World.
World being the best of them.
Yeah.
I'll back that if for no other reason than I don't have enough information about Sunshine really um to make a statement about it either way. I was playing Super Mario World recently, and when I got to the end and beat Bowser, was like, okay, I wish I was exploring the Forest of Illusion or whatever. But it is a fine boss fight. Mark's a thought occurs to me here. We're doing all of these Super Mario Brothers final boss battles on home console, but there is one exception. There is a final boss battle that we have not included on this list, and I'm referring, of course, to Wart from Super Mario Brothers 2. Now, he is obviously not a Bowser, but he is the final boss battle in a Super Mario Brothers console game.
And we are like strongly on record being Wart boosters, that we want
Yeah,
more Wart, that there should be no Wart shaming. We should all
no,
like
none.
be wanting more Wart, excited whenever there is Wart. And so yeah, I agree. Let's pull him up here. Let's see how he compares to these other games.
Wow. Okay, so using the criteria that we've used to discuss all the other boss fights, now we must also, and I understand that we still have our A and S tiers to rank, but let's figure out where Wart fits, because I think it's possible that he'll be right in the middle-ish here somewhere. But I don't know. I may be surprised. He may pull out an incredible victory. So Wart, like all of the boss fights in Super Mario Brothers 2, play by the rules of Super Mario Brothers 2 in kind of a perfect way. Like it's all about picking up things and throwing them, and the platforming around it, which is what that whole thing is. It's a pretty good boss fight.
Yeah, it's an look. I love Wart, but it's
Granted, yes.
but
Granted.
I just feel like I have to say that before I'm what I'm about to say, which is that I think it's just an okay boss fight. because
right.
it does play by the mechanics of the rest of the game, but I think to its detriment a little bit because some of the other boss encounters are more like interesting and inventive than Wart, which is like really just a vanilla Mario 2 boss fight, except he does have that awesome like vegetable spitting machine, which don't
The
really
vegetable
understand what
spitting
that
machine
is.
is incredible. Why would he have that in his throne room when the vegetables hurt him? Only when you throw them in his mouth. I think another thing that works against it is, as a kid, the only way I could ever fight Wart was catching a vegetable and then jumping behind him, because there's a block that you can just stand on behind Wart where he doesn't go back that far, and you can just wait for him to start spitting out bubbles, and then you pop a veggie in his mouth, and that's like suspiciously easy. It's one of those things where you're like, I'm winning, I'm cheating, but I'm winning. So there's a little bit of a like, to do it well, it sort of like takes the threat or like the sort of challenge out of it. So I think for me, it's probably a B tier fight.
Yeah, I'm trying to compare it to, like we ranked Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels pretty low just because it's like a repeat of the encounters that we've done before. But
Interesting.
But if we're comparing it to something like Super Mario 64, it's definitely for me not I think it sits comfortably above Super Mario 64 and below Super Mario Galaxy, maybe.
Interesting. Yeah, it does also take a long time. I know he only takes like 5 or 6 vegetables, but that's a lot of vegetables. You gotta catch him one at a time, jump behind him, of course, because you're a cowardly child, and throw the vegetable into his mouth. It takes a long time. I think that's right. I think better than Bowser in Super Mario 64, and worse than Bowser in Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with that. I think that's a good placement for Wart. He can hold his head up high.
Yeah, I mean, when compared against other Bowsers, it is honestly just an honor to be considered among them, right? I think I messed up the numbering here, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so we have 4 games left. 3 A tiers and 1 S tier. The A tiers are Super Mario Brothers 3, New Super Mario Brothers Wii, and Super Mario Galaxy 2. So I think New Super Mario Brothers Wii is probably the bottom of this list for me. And maybe even as we start talking about it, it will slide down to be below Super Mario World. But I think at the very least it's the bottom of the A tier.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The difficulty for me in ranking this one is it's like I can't. When watching the video, I was like, yes, this looks fun. This is what I want. But I can't say that playing it is fun necessarily. So I'm comfortable with the placement where it's at.
Okay. And then Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario Galaxy 2. Which is the better of those 2 boss fights?
I think Galaxy 2 for sure.
Yeah, me too. So Super Mario Brothers 3 is next on our list. That's so number 4, or no, number 3, I guess. And then Super Mario Galaxy 2 is going to be our second best Bowser fight. And then it is in a class all of its own, Super Mario 3D World. That Kitty Bowser battle is just too good to even be challenged by anyone.
Yeah, I could.
Right?
Yeah, I hands down, I think that Super Mario 3D World, a game which, by the way, I have not played all of. I have watched Patrick and Sarah complete this game, but I have not played it myself. And I'm a huge booster. I think it's a great Bowser fight.
Yeah, and one of the best. Totally looking forward to everyone playing it when this game comes out on Switch in February. Mark, let's run down our list of the top 13 Bowser battles. Coming in at number 13 is New Super Mario Bros. U. Number 12 is Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. Number 11 is Super Mario Brothers. Number 10 is Super Mario Odyssey. All the way down there at number 10. Number 9 is Super Mario 64. Number 8 is Super Mario Brothers 2. So that's Wart from Super Mario Brothers 2. Number 7 is Super Mario Galaxy. Number 6 is Super Mario Sunshine. Number 5 is Super Mario World. Number 4 is New Super Mario Brothers Wii. Number 3 is Super Mario Brothers 3. Number 2 is Super Mario Galaxy 2. And coming in at number 1 is Super Mario 3D World. Mark, how you feeling about this?
I feel great about it.
Yeah, I think we nailed it. If anyone has anything to say about this, that's not what I mean to do. It's not a fight. If you think we messed anything up, or if you want to agree and back us up, all you gotta do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at
gmail.com
and let us know. All right, Mark, let's close this out. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you should share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. We appreciate it when you do that. On Twitter, I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by Apipetty. You can get more of his music by going to apipetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying if there's ever a cat wart in a game, that gets automatic number 1. And thanks for listening.
Hey, Rachel, Oscar.
Yeah, Claire?
Do you love Disney movies?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen them all?
Not all of them.
What do you guys think if we watch them all in chronological order and then talk about them?
Ooh. Oh, and what if we can talk about it with some of our favorite friends?
I love that.
Yeah, and what if we do it inside the Disney Vault?
You know, that's the name of our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault on Campfire Media.
Yeah, check us out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to yours.
That's Inside the Disney Vault.
Let's go!
Woo!
Campfire.